Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with InsideTheU here in Scottsdale, Arizona. The Hurricanes just wrapped up media day today. Offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, defensive coordinator Corey Heatherman, and quarterback Carson Beck. I already posted videos of them on the channel, but also Akeem Mesidor, Keontae Scott, and Mark Fletcher also spoke with the reporters. I'll post their videos as well. But just real quickly, a few notes from media day today. Corey Heatherman says he feels confident that Ahmad Moten's going to play on Thursday, and he feels like O.J. Frederick is essentially practicing as normal, and then he feels like Damari Brown has a shot. So take all that for what it's worth, but certainly if Miami can get those guys back, it would certainly be helpful, especially in a game like this against an Ole Miss team that, and I talked to Corey about this. I asked Corey about just facing a team like this that has so many different weapons that they can go to, and I think certainly Miami needs all the defensive help that it can get, especially on the back end. And as he put it, he feels like they got 4 starters there at the cornerback position. So getting Damari in there, that would certainly be helpful. O.J. Frederick, got to have those guys in there, along with Ethan O'Connor, Xavier Lucas there, and then obviously with Keontae there at that nickel spot. So that'll be big. Get those guys back. And, Corey said it's a little different than the last couple weeks where the teams that they faced, certainly really talented receivers, really good, and certainly a challenge, but they knew exactly who those teams were going to target, from an offensive standpoint. Whereas Ole Miss, they feel like they've got different ways they can beat you. And just listening to the players talk, they're certainly excited about this opportunity, and like they've done the first 2 games of the playoff, they want to take advantage of this opportunity. So, just listen to Akeem Mesidor, and ever since Akeem's been at Miami, since he transferred in from West Virginia, he's just been great at providing great perspective. He always had a positive attitude. You watch him, he's always smiling, watching him from afar, just a really positive attitude. And I asked him, essentially off the field, that's how he is, and in the position he plays on the field, defensive end, you got to be ruthless. Such a physical game there up front with where he plays and what's expected of him. So I asked him about that, and he said, look, he says he plays the same way, in games on the field as he is off the field. He likes to be happy when he plays. He says he plays better that way. That's just who he is and how he is. He said there's been times over his career he's learned that he's tried to play angry and tried to play that way, and essentially just doesn't feel like he gets the most out of himself. So I think that's great, because you don't typically hear that. You do hear, you do see guys off the field with a great personality, very positive, friendly, and it changes when they go on the field. Essentially 2 different styles of people, personalities, but Akeem says he tries to have that same positive attitude and mindset in the middle of a game. And certainly he said, he gets excited when he makes a big play. It's easy to be positive in that moment. Another thing that Akeem said today was just that, losing Ahmad Moten their last game when he went down with the injury. And he said it's not just about losing a talented player that helps the defense, but also, it just hurts that rotation. It kind of affects the other guys because they have to play more. They don't have that same rotation. But he feels good about with what he's seen from that group, obviously. And Coach Heatherman mentioned that as well there in the interior. David Blay with Moten in there, Justin Scott, and Corey said, they obviously had high hopes for Justin, but Justin took a little bit of time to get going, but he's been great, especially in the second half of the season there at that defensive tackle spot. So those guys kind of fitting in, and Armando Blunt, able to kind of play different spots there on the line. So that's been big, and I think it'll be big in this one. Just, again, you kind of go down the line. You always start at the top of the top players, but once you kind of go down the line of some of these other depth pieces, I just think it's going to be big in a game like this. Another quick note, kind of sharing this with Mark Fletcher, and I asked Mark what's been the key. Essentially, he looked fresh down the stretch. This late in the season, what's been the key for him? And he gave a big shout out to strength staff and nutritionists, but also he said this. He said sleep, getting enough sleep has been key for him. So I asked him, I had to ask a follow-up. So he said he tries to go to bed about 10:30 every night, maybe 11, but he just feels like getting to bed at a good time is good for him. And, it's obviously contributed because he's been great in terms of, he has not been, slacking at all or feeling any type of way down the stretch of the season. He's been really strong. Obviously that A&M game with the career high 172, but he was big against Ohio State as well, and I think he's going to be big in this one. They want to run the ball. Again, there's the big topic of conversation is the Ole Miss offense versus the Miami defense, but conversely, on the other side, Miami's got to pound the ball. They've got to get things going, and also too, I think they've got to throw the ball. And speaking of throwing the ball, Shannon Dawson gave good perspective on Carson Beck and his season, answered a lot of questions today at Media Day. Like I said, check out his video, what he had to say. But there was something that he talked about I thought was great, and it goes back to that Louisville game. Carson threw 4 interceptions, and Shannon said the day after is when he got a lot of confidence in Carson and this team, and it felt like he said it. He said, I feel like we were going to be all right. It's because of how Carson responded. And not that he wasn't disappointed clearly with that 4 interception performance, but Carson was essentially ready to move on. They studied film, they really looked at things, and Shannon also said he felt like every interception's a little bit different. He gave a great golf analogy. I'll let him explain it in the video as you can see it, but he just said essentially 4 interception games or performances like that, obviously you don't want that kind of output there, but everything looks different. Every kind of game looks different. Every performance looks a little bit different, even if the results are the same. So he just felt like, even though it was bad, there were some things in there that they could kind of move away from or move forward from. And, it wasn't necessarily a sign of things to come from a negative standpoint. So he just felt like that was a good turning point, and he felt like the team was going to be all right, felt like Carson was going to be all right because of how Carson immediately, day after, responded with that performance. Shannon even said he felt like he was even a little bit more disappointed than Carson was, just because of the way they were handling it. But it is fascinating to kind of hear these turning point type moments in a season like this, and that certainly was one. As I think about this game, and I've been talking about it, I've been saying I think it's going to be a points game. I think Miami's going to have to throw the ball. And so with that, obviously Carson's got to play well, but just these wide receivers at Miami, and I asked Shannon about the wide receivers, essentially this group that he has. They've been primarily rolling with the 3 guys, mainly all season long. Obviously you got Malachi Toney, but then also too, you got CJ Daniels now back in the mix fully, and then Keelan Marion. Those are your 3 primary guys getting most of the reps. And then also with JoJo Trader and Josh Moore, and that's it right now going into it. But Shannon called them, he's talked about this all season long, but just called them the grittiest group that he's dealt with, as a coach, and talks about how well they block on the perimeter and that they've really all bought in to what they can contribute to a team when they don't have the ball. So, and he feels like that's been big for this group, and certainly trying to get a receiver to have that mindset is not the easiest, but it's also what's contributed to their success. But I think they're going to be involved. I think they're going to need to make catches. Somebody's got to have a big game, or multiple guys making catches there, and I think Miami's going to be throwing the ball on this one. I really think the Ole Miss secondary is a bit of a weakness there, and I think Miami can expose it through the passing game with the receivers and with Carson Beck. So that's a big matchup to watch for, even though there's a ton of other matchups that seem to be certainly more important or more talked about. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. Like I said, I've got to get back and kind of work on these other videos from Media Day. Also, too, I was able to get some content before I left campus yesterday that I want to put out for you guys. And then tomorrow, got to get ready for tomorrow. Like Mark Fletch, I got to get a good night's sleep. So tomorrow morning, it starts with the head coach's press conference with Mario Cristobal. Going to be there for that. And then I've got some other things I'm working on. Plenty of work to be done before the game on Thursday. But I definitely appreciate everybody checking out the video, subscribing, all the new subscribers to the channel. I appreciate you and everybody, obviously, that have showed their support over the years, but certainly during this exciting season. So I'm going to get to it. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully have a good rest of the day, and take care.